Well. To talk about a dominant victory, well, the Indian football team's win over Pakistan in the SAFF Cup or the SAFF Championship opener, that's about as dominant as it comes. Now, truth be told, it is not a surprise that India ended up registering such a big win. Don't forget, as far as the SAFF Cup is concerned, India definitely always go in as favorites due to their superior ranking status. Whereas Pakistan, well, it's a little bit on the opposite side. Their ranking, well, among all of the teams that play the SAFF Cup, is the lowest in terms of the FIFA rankings. They are ranked 195, whereas India are, of course, ranked 101st in the world as we speak. But that doesn't diminish the sweetness that one gets from, of course, a victory over Pakistan. Now, this one, it was really as clinical as they come. And truth be told, there are a few interesting talking points which we'll be going over regarding how it is that, India were performing in this match. And, of course, the fact that it was once again that man, that one Indian talisman who was leading India, from the front and by example, Sunil Chhetri. Once again, the man always for the big moments, and he was clinical and at his sublime best. Now, obviously, he was helped considerably. If you watch that first goal, you realize that he was helped considerably by the fact that the Pakistan goalkeeper had an absolute nightmare, gifted him the opportunity on the platter, but Chetri, being the absolute goal poacher that he is, ensured that he converted that chance. Few minutes later, wins a penalty, converts the penalty, easy as you like. 2-0 lead at that point with less than 20 minutes played, and India were definitely cruising. However, thereafter, what happened, you saw just before the end of the first half, obviously, tempers flaring a little bit. The Indian and Pakistani players get into it a little bit on the touchline, and Igor Stimac, the Indian head coach, actually got so aggressive that he blocked a throw-in and ended up getting himself sent off, which, of course, if you know how footballing red cards work, means that he will most likely also not be in the touchline, at least for the next 2 or 3 games, depending on what the suspension is. Because red cards doesn't just mean that you're sent off from this particular game. It also means that you are, in fact, suspended for further games, so future games. Now, that aside, as I said, this was definitely a very dominant win for India. And as for Chetri, he was on a hat-trick going into the second half. He completed that hat-trick with another penalty, which was easily converted. Thereafter was subbed off, but by that point, as I said, job had already been done. But just to add the exclamation point to what was an already dominant victory for the Indian team, you had Udanta Singh, someone who's very familiar with playing in Bangalore, where the match was being held, considering the fact that he spent pretty much his entire senior career at Bangalore FC. Well, he ended up running onto a nice little through ball, finished well, 4-0, easy as you like. Perfect start for India in the group stage of the SAFF Championships. Remember, it's always important to start well in such tournaments, and the Indian team, well, they made the perfect start. 4-0 victory, yes. Against your biggest arch rivals, yes. In a comprehensive manner, well, yeah. Definitely. It was one of those victories where the Indian team in recent times, and again, granted, in the Intercontinental Cup, there were some teams they were playing, weren't probably maybe the strongest, but what they say about momentum and confidence in any sport. And the Indian team right now riding high on momentum, clearly riding very high on confidence, playing some good football under Igor Stimac. And not just that, well, they have some of their best players firing on all cylinders. Lalinzola Changte on, the wing has also been phenomenal. He was in good form, not just during the ISL, the past 2 seasons, but also in the Intercontinental Cup, was getting goals and assists. Sunil Chhetri, of course, nothing to be said about him. Even Udanta was coming on, and, he's ended up actually getting a goal himself. So, all in all, a very good showing for the Indian football team. But, as I said, of the major talking points, yes, the fact that India ended up getting a win, that's great. Sunil Chhetri, by the way, is now the or rather the 4th highest goal scorer in international football as a whole. In fact, he's now gotten 90 goals. 90 goals, was it? Yes. He's got 90 goals in international football, and that means he's the 4th highest on the all-time list. In fact, if you're talking Asian players, he's the 2nd highest now, because Ali Daei of Iran, who had, of course, until recent times held that record for the most number of goals in international football until Ronaldo broke it in 2021. Ali Daei is 2nd on the list, Lionel Messi is 3rd, and you have Sunil Chhetri who's up there. So, again, great times for the skipper continue. He's seemingly aging like fine wine, and even though, obviously, he probably doesn't have the speed and, let's say, the agility or the nimbleness that he would have had a few years back, his instincts in and around the goal area still remain fantastic. The other major talking point, of course, is the fact that Pakistan, unfortunately, and truth be told, I don't think it would have made much of a difference to the result either which way, but they were hampered by a lot of issues in the build-up. You remember that initially, their visas weren't issued on time, and thereafter, when they did finally get issued, there were issues with their flights, which meant that in essence, Pakistan arrived in the country with just a few hours to go for the game. Definitely, they wouldn't have been in a prime or ideal condition, considering if you're on a flight and it's a long flight flying from Pakistan to then Bangalore, even if it was an indirect one, wouldn't have been an easy flight. You're arriving fatigued, and I think it definitely showed to some extent. Nevertheless, I don't think that's an excuse or a mitigating factor for the Pakistani players, because again, their quality in this game probably isn't as high, and they would have been on the losing end of things regardless. And it was pretty evident that they were desperate to force a result in some way, because they ended up causing a bit of a fracas on the touchline. Didn't work out so well, although they did get Igor Stimac sent off. But again, getting the head coach sent off makes no difference when the team you're facing still has 11 very good players on the pitch. As for what India have to do now, well, again, as I always said, when you're talking about the SAFF Championships, they would be one of the teams that are favourites. In theory, they would actually be fancying, going the distance in this. And don't forget, this is a very important year for Indian football as a whole, because again, come the end of the year, you're going to be having the AFC Asian Cup take place in Qatar, and that really is the tournament to keep an eye out on. That is why the Intercontinental Cup had so much significance. That's why the SAFF Cup now has so much significance, and that is why you want all Indian players to be match shape, playing as many games as possible in the lead up to the Asian Cup. Because again, for India, the main goal would be to do well in the AFC Asian Cup. It doesn't matter necessarily how well they do in the SAFF Championships or in tournaments that they organize like the Intercontinental Cup. The main goal is to do well in the in the AFC Asian Cup. That is the main goal. So India have, of course, in recent times made it a bit of a habit of qualifying, because you'd remember 2011 they qualified for the first time in a long time. Then they also made it back in 2019. They could have made it to the group stages, ended up missing out. This time around they want to do one better and hopefully make it out of the group stages and into the knockouts. Anything thereafter definitely is a bonus and would represent some sort of progress, but that's still a long way off. Right now the focus will be the SAFF Championship and how it is India can do, and I'm sure they do pretty well if they got the support of people from not just Bangalore, where the matches will be happening, but also around the country. It is, of course, as our let's say duty and moral right as fans of Indian sport to be backing the boys in blue, and hopefully they can go the distance in the SAFF Championship. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this live video. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget, like, share, subscribe, tap the bell icon, leave us a comment, follow us on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Don't forget to download the SportsTalk app as well, and if you're already on the channel, go ahead and check out some other videos that we've done. But for now, from me, it's goodbye.